Hello. I Good evening. Thanks for listening. I'm going to try to get through this pretty fast. I failed to get it right the first time with my software. I'm using Chimpamp, but I am a soil scientist from I have a degree in a bachelor's of science in soil science from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. My name is Peter Fisher. I've seen you all in class. So in soil, we learn that soil is made up of water, air, humus, or organic matter, mineral matter. This all is affected by how you treat the soil. So if you walk on the soil too much, it condenses it, and you lose the amount of air. That could, in terms, that can impact the water. So when I also studied like their Vados zone remediation, and if a train fell over with chemicals in it, what would you do? How would you remediate the site? I believe if as long as the creek's not flowing right there, the teacher said in the mineral rock is scoria, so it's real porous. So he said the best thing to do is leave it in situ, to leave it right there and let it do its thing. Probably in this case, so leave it alone. Okay, so I started doing a project on gas powered equipment of a battery operated mower until it's quieter. Sounds more like a vacuum cleaner. They hear the sticks breaking up. It's still powerful. And then you have a sound of a gas blower. Loud. And then you have a sound of a gas lawnmower. It kind of sounds like a hop and a right? So I did my project on gas powered equipment versus so-called zero emission equipment. Man, what the heck? Having trouble with the. Okay, and then gardeners, they have a business to run, of course, and they have a family, and so they get in there and they blow out. And then you have noise level, you have pollution, ecology. This is all something of concern. A blower by the door outside, and you're sitting inside the house, can reach as high as 75 decibels. So that's pretty loud. And then you have pollution, you have the ecology that could affect the soil and all that stuff. And then you have landscaping, though. You can choose drought tolerant landscape to use. That's lower in water maintenance, or it has lower, requires lower maintenance, and it's pretty. That means you can't just whack it away. You got to leave it for the bees. And then you got the Pinstamon. I bought this at Home Depot. It's from Smart Planet, and they pay attention to what plants. Most of them seem to be California natives. Right back here is a bougainvillea, and that might be some type of sage. My dad does them. He makes a bonsai with them. That's interesting. He uses that scoria rock. It's high in porosity, but you have to water it a lot. But it has its advantages. You can curate it better. And here's our high intensive water sprinkling. We use a water sprinkler for our lawn. It's pretty, but water isn't forever. And then this garden has permeable pavers, so the water can infiltrate into the soil. It's not going to run off into the Sankeys and the Sanjas, as they say, and down to the ocean in a long time, or the Santa Ana River, eventually leading to the ocean. Um, Drought tolerant plants, wood chips on the ground. It's a good idea. And then you have Santa Barbara. It's a sustainably set up area that actually does not use, at least for the blowers, it's using all electric or battery operated blowers. But the solution has to be economically feasible. It requires education. It requires policy. People need to know why it's making a difference. They need to know the problem. Maybe you can pass out flyers. You can talk to the city council. You can talk to the senator, but you need some kind of policy that maybe the incentive would be to put a full page ad in the newspaper if you switch your business completely over to zero emission equipment. And then so you're building community. Community has to make the choice. They need to be. Sometimes we need to be told no, I think, but we need our independence. We all appreciate that. We need love from each other. That's kind of how you raise a child. Listening to a psychologist I heard on TV. It might be one reason, some of the children of more affluent families get in trouble because not enough attention is given to them. So policy, laws, regulation, and then too much attention might not be. So you get my point, I think. But laws, regulations, incentivize. I think we talked about that a little bit. But this family made the switch to the sun run, so they're putting a plug out that, hey, this is what we did. Maybe you should do it too. Think about it. And you have equipment that's advertised at Home Depot. It's battery operated, but it's a type of fuel. It's a different way of it's a different way of thinking about it. Still a fuel, but it's a different type of fuel. It has as much power, it turns out. It's quieter. It does have its issues still. Technology is getting better, and you have this lush garden department, and they're advertising a blower that's 72% quieter than gas. Of course, that's for the trimmer, the gas compared to the gas trimmer, but the blower's I think 40% quieter, and that's awesome. That's the reason I wanted to do this topic, is because I smell gas too from the gas blower from our gardener that comes through, and it's loud. And it turns out that the loudness can affect our health. Of course, we need our naps. And how can we be at peace with ourselves? And as Seneca says, love thyself. Happiness comes from within. How can we got to have that nap. We got to be able to meditate. We need quiet. And, the lady who wrote the article, how quiet it's back there. Rebecca, I think was her name. She wrote this article, and anyhow, basically she was able to get to the city through talking with city officials. She was able to get legislation passed that prevents gas blowers from being used on the weekend, I believe. And so that's fabulous. It's like a step forward. And it sounds like something everyone can end up agreeing upon. It's like, yeah, it is kind of loud, and it happens through this neighborhood. It happens all the time, every week. Sometimes, definitely on Saturdays, but I think Sunday is a day no one really does, except the neighbors sometimes use a chainsaw. So I don't think you can quiet the chainsaw too much. But here's the Redlands Home Depot, and it's not as lush. It's like maybe that says something about the culture, perhaps. Like, yeah, we know we're doing something wrong. We are running out of water. We used to have a lot of water from Big Bear Dam, but Nestle's taken that over and makes Arrowhead with it. So it's like, yeah, time to change things up. Maybe being happier will be a result of making a better environment that surrounds us, and the store will get different looking. I don't know. But look at the technology for batteries, because batteries do have their problems. They mine a lot of minerals out of the mines. We have to import a lot of it. So it definitely has a life cycle analysis different from gasoline, but it does open the opportunity to use renewable energy. And so we know that quote that sustainable development is development that meets the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But my brother says, who works for an environmental contractor, he says, yeah, but that's missing the obvious. Isn't this anthropocentric? I mean, whose generation? The people? It's kind of shallow. Sure, that's part of it, but start with if we can fit into this existing, well, in the dot dot dot, he's like, start with the fox that lives over in, or start with the skunk that lives over there, and the possum that lives here in your own yard, and heck, there's even a fox that frequents sometimes. And how are they? I mean, they're obviously living the God-given path, uh, for as we know it to be sustainable. And so let's fit into the circles of let's fit into let's not step over others' toes, so that we when we live our life, so that we can allow them also to live their lives, and try our best at that. And the rest will then the rest will fall into place, and generations will be able to meet their own needs. And I think McDonough had the same question, how do we live, how do we love all children of all species for all time? And we got to think about everything is a nutrient. Um, like, and I mean, we know that we got the power is right there, the sun that rises every day, and we can use that energy. So when I went to Cal Poly, I met Lionel Johnston, and I just had to throw him in because he went around and promoted tree planting in the area. He would actually go up, and he said, "Yeah, it's all right. It's all right here. It's being provided for us." So we would drive crews up to the Big Sur area, and I was lucky, and Nacimiento Ferguson Road, and we would go collect tan bark oak acorns and then return and plant them around schools and work with some being children, some being Cal Poly students, some being delinquents. We would go and plant the trees in the ground, at various places, whether it was on campus or Sinsheimer Park or various areas. But he would use a tree tube, and the tree tube made it simple. It's not rocket. He would always start his conversation off with, "It's not rocket science, folks." But so it's like, yeah, and you start it from the ground. If we go back to this previous slide, you can see this is anchored in with ties and stuff. I wonder if that tree had been grown from a sapling, would it have been stronger to root into the soil, grow with the nutrients that are already, the minerals that are already present in the soil? you know there's always probably a better way, making the step in the right direction. The moon, going to the moon. Okay, so California native white sage. This is a local plant in our neck of the woods. The Cahuilla Indians lived off a lot of plants, and they had they were used, for medicinal purposes, spiritual purposes, physical property purposes. Like sage is used as an air purifier. Of course, you'd have to read her book to find out exactly how they used them. And even so, just grow them and look at them. They're pretty, and they're going to provide life for the birds and the bees, and you might see a garden spider again. I don't see a lot of garden spiders. So, and then so we have the moonshot. That's what William McDowell was talking about. If we can get to the moon, there's a way we can visualize a better universe that we know of and live within those circles of life. Um, wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, look at the beginning. You saw the lady; she was blowing the flowers here up, but those are pretty. Those. They still look pretty, even though they're seen as something we have to remove. And yeah, maybe you have to remove them a little bit, but if you had a sustainable garden, you'd have a mulch pile, and you would then end up recycling that back into the area that they were growing on. And so there's definitely a universal life buzz there, that's going to appreciate having what it worked hard to do to put out there for you to smell and for others to take from, to get some of that back and get the return, and so it can do it all over again. But if you're going to use that gardening equipment, gosh, it's kind of like, possibly as this technology gets better, I think the answer is switching over to zero emissions gardening equipment. It's just a lot better for the neighborhood, and it's quieter. Um, it doesn't have the smell of gasoline. It's kind of fun. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because I went to college and I got to learn things. But I can't imagine. I think everybody likes to learn, and there's some smart people that didn't go to college, and so I'm sure those gardeners wouldn't mind learning a little bit of it. But definitely, you're going to need policy. You're going to need education and economic feasibility to make it happen. Um, and and down and we can focus on what we know we can do, but certainly we can make changes, because my brother working in the out at the landfill sites, he's trying to figure out what to do with all the municipal post municipal product waste. But he says, yeah, that's how we help the whole process of sustainability, is we are able to deal with the buildup of this and lower the amount of greenhouse emissions into the atmosphere. But that does nothing to help, like, but where does it all come from? So there's more to the picture. There's always more to the picture. Where does it all come from? And what is, sure, you can be more efficient, but what is your overall, how effective is it? As William McDowell points out, how effective is it? Do we really need to go down this direction of using fossil fuels? You saw it. The Milwaukee said fuel. So there's the fuel. It's there. We just need to work on the upstream approach, probably, and make that a little bit cleaner, and the downstream approach. We need to, there, it does, when I did the system life cycle analysis, I found that there is a way to recycle these batteries, and I thought that was important. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing and learning from all of you and your presentations. I had a little bit of technical difficulty, and so hopefully this works. Thank you, and Nurit, thank you for the class. I've learned a lot, and I appreciate your leadership. Thank you.